This episode of the only podcast about movies was recorded a little differently. Shahir and I are on the road and therefore not in our normal soundproof chamber.
We're sleeping top to toe.
He's also right next to me. So if you hear any audio anomalies like someone telling you our sleeping arrangements, just bear that in mind and we'll be back to normal as soon as possible. He made me really uncomfortable. Enjoy the show. What is up, Internet? This must be white man's intuition. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And a blind pig sometimes finds a truffle.
No.
My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Hell or High Water.
I know this is a little bit out of the... It's. We tend to do movies 1 week after the release. It's been a few weeks since this came out.
True, and we're sorry.
But we wanted to do this movie specifically because spoilers for our review. We both enjoyed it. And we want people to have eyes on this movie.
We basically want to get you guys at least hearing about it if you already haven't before it leaves theaters because we think it's worth it overall.
It's also been a pretty dreadful summer at the movies.
Also true.
So it's good to see a solid movie released in the middle of summer up against some big blockbusters that actually is worth your time.
Yes. No, 100%.
Actually, there's been a lot of those, but they just don't get the money.
Yes. So that's sort of the why we're doing this, and we think it's worth it. But before we get into the film, let's do a little housekeeping, Shahir.
Oh, a little housekeeping. This is going to be an interesting one because we've been out of the house for a couple of weeks.
We've been out of the house, and we got cleaning up. We're actually out of the house now. Shh, don't tell Mom.
But there's something special that we've just released.
That's right.
Released a week ago.
Yep.
You can now find all of our content in one place. No longer, dear listener, do you have to use your little hands to type in two separate addresses to find...
How do we know their hands are little?
Well, I'm presuming they're little.
Okay.
Everyone has little hands, right?
No.
Little stubbies tapping away on the keyboard. You can go to onlymoviepodcast.com to see all of our content aggregated. You can reach us there. You can find out about the podcast. You'll also be able to find out any news and upcoming events like our last week's event, which was held live at PAX. We hope you listened to that episode. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, please listen. It was such a good time. The audience was amazing. The convention was awesome. Also, thank you so much to our special guests in the panel, Red Charzan and James Portnow. They killed it. They kept us honest.
And James was a great host to us in Seattle as well.
That is true. So thank you to him and all of the extra credits crew. And I think we fixed Hollywood. I think the next video game movie.
Shot, yeah. I mean,
Assassin's Creed might be a little too late.
No, I think they're doing reshoots based on what we
said. Okay, that's good.
Said.
No, but it was great. Thank you, everyone who came out. It was wonderful. And
great audience who were like really into it, asking us a lot of questions.
I talked to a lot of them after the show. They were all super excited and nice and wanted to, basically continue the discussion. And that's what we wanted. So it was awesome. Thank you again.
We sacrificed a lot for that panel. We watched a lot of shitty movies.
Yes, it is. It was our civic duty.
So again, go to onlymoviepodcast.com to hear all of our podcasts, to get in touch with us, anything you want to reach out to us with as well, including those movie requests. You can reach us directly at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up at Twitter at onlymoviepod, or just stop in on our Facebook page, which is always a hotbed of
some kind
hate.
of activity. And if you like what you hear, always please go to iTunes, give us those reviews. It helps a lot to get ears over our stuff.
Reviews. I eat them up.
He eats them up. He specifically told me, Shahir told me he likes the 2-star as many stars as you'd love.
As many reviews as I can get insulting the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
As many that you can insulting Shahir for insulting the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's just like you did it too. So's your face.
No, it's true.
That was a so's your face response.
Also,
I expected more from you, Matt.
Well, I'm sorry.
Now, on with the movie, Hell or High Water. Let me just ask you a question first. I know I do this all the time, but I'm going to do it again now. Are you a big fan of Westerns?
No. Well, here's the weird thing about that. My gut reaction whenever anyone asks me if I'm a fan of a Western, I say no.
Right.
And I don't know why that is.
Here's my reason.
The more Westerns I watch, I'm like, I like this one.
So here's my reason, and it might be the same reason for you. Westerns are the genre of my dad.
Yeah, but I like my dad.
No, it's not that I don't like my dad.
Why don't you like your dad?
It's just that those are the films that my dad would want me to sit down and watch. And as a kid, sometimes you don't want to watch those long, drawn out movies that your dad likes.
Right. No, that's very true.
And I mean, I've seen all the I would say I've seen most of the big American westerns. I've seen like The Searchers, Once Upon a Time in the West.
High Noon, the original High Noon, because that's the one that I loved.
I haven't seen High Noon.
You should check that out. That I saw in high school.
Yeah,
and it's fucking cool.
I'm a big fan of Jimmy Stewart in the Western. So the man who shot Liberty Valance really does it for me as well. And of course, like the modern Western revivals, like Unforgiven, and then even the sort of noir Westerns like No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood.
I think, and another thing, someone might have been talking to me. I don't remember. Someone told me this, so this is not my original thought. So if they're listening right now, email us.
This
in,
imaginary person.
Yeah, but like a Western, you start to like them as you get older because it's about a bygone, like it. I don't know. There's something about like the aging. I don't know the terminology, but like Westerns feel like the act of getting older in a weird sort of way. And so as I'm getting older, I'm starting to like this sort of like nostalgic look back on, not that the West, the quote Wild West was not a fun place to live, but I think
if you're a white man, I think it was.
I don't think it was fun for anybody.
Oh, right.
But
you're saying it's not. Sorry, I thought you were saying it was a fun place to live.
No, I'm saying it was an awful place. It was an awful time to live.
What was that Seth MacFarlane film that came out a couple of years ago?
Oh, 1,000 Ways to Die in the West, or 10,000. Exactly. That was atrocious. No, but like it's that sort of like it's nostalgia personified for older people in a weird way. So because you're looking back at like it
tells you that there is no country. This is No Country for Old Men now. Is that right? Is that what you're trying to say?
I guess it's just an interesting sort of thing where like that's the nostalgia factor. I feel like is you look back and you're like, oh, this was such a cool time when in actuality it was anything but.
So one thing is anything that I learned at college, that I'm passionate about, I will try to like talk to you about it in my own words. But I did a Western class when I was...
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about experimentation. I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
I did a Western genre class when I was in college, but it definitely wasn't like one of my favorite classes. It wasn't a class that I really was excited about. But I did see a lot of Westerns. And the thing that my takeaway from that class entirely was the idea that Westerns were this notion of frontierism, this idea that there was this place that was uncharted that needed to be charted by people who were pioneers. And like the idea of the Western that I thought was really interesting was that you could transpose that idea into science fiction, for example. Like space exploration was really the Western of the modern century.
Sure, and you take the cool sort of tropes of Westerns and you put it in everything. One of my favorite television series of all time ever to grace an airwave is Cowboy Bebop. That's space, that's cowboys, that's anime.
I would say I think you could argue that Breaking Bad is kind of a Western.
Yeah, in the way that Walter White is an anti-hero. Oh, actually, I don't. You know what though?
He's an aging man trying to fight back again.
Right, but I wouldn't even call Walter White an anti-hero. I don't know.
You think he's a hero?
No, I don't. I think he's a villain.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's what we're getting off topic, but that's what the show creator always talked about was that he wanted to see Mr. Rogers turning into Scarface.
They did it.
So back to Hell or High Water. Obviously, this is in that category of modern Western that we were talking about earlier. Films like No Country for Old Men, because it's set today, but it's set in Texas, although not filmed in Texas. Interestingly,
really, where was it filmed?
I think it was filmed in Albuquerque or New Mexico.
Well,
and some message board was talking about how it was a film and it was because the film is so specifically referencing Texas cities.
So weird,
and it wasn't filmed in Texas.
I wonder what. I mean, cheaper?
Of course, that would be the reason to do it.
Yeah. So, well, then it's Texas's fault.
And I'm going to read the IMDb summary right now, but this I'm really interested about the way in which this story is told. So this IMDb summary is probably giving away more than the film gives away a lot.
Okay.
But here we go. A divorced dad and his ex-con brother resort to a desperate scheme in order to save their family's farm in West Texas.
I mean, sure. What's with IMDb sort of synopsis? Because sometimes they like nail it and it's sort of in depth, and other times it's like a catalyst happens for a person and they had to do a thing to make sure stuff happed.
Is IMDb user aggregated? So
I don't know.
Because I don't know if it's a studio who wrote this or if it's a user who wrote this.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's interesting, so right off the bat, I really enjoyed this film. I really liked it. Now, I'm not 100% passionate about this movie, and I'll get into why that is a little bit later. But I think this is a smart, well-executed film. And the thing that I really, really dug about it was that plot synopsis that we just told you is really only revealed about 40 minutes into the movie. So that plot synopsis might even be a spoiler because basically the thing, the classic screenwriting trope is start as late as possible into a scene, into a story. You want people to catch up to the film. And this is a really good example of that. This film starts right in the middle of a robbery. And we don't know who the players are. We don't know what their relationship is to each other. We don't know why they're doing it. We're just seeing process going down for like a good 10 to 20 minutes.
And that robbery scene is wonderful for a couple different reasons.
Yeah, it's really good. And we don't. The film kind of unfolds in this. I would say it's unconventional now, but it's classic screenwriting 101. I can imagine in a lesser screenplay, this was written by Taylor Sheridan, by the way, who wrote Sicario and who's writing the upcoming sequel to Sicario, Soledad. He was also an actor.
Wait, they're doing a sequel?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Go back and listen to our Sicario review. That's a film that, again, I didn't love, but I love the director, and that's a film I always kind of like go, I would totally watch that again.
That's a piecemeal love for me. I really appreciated pieces of that movie, but as a whole...
But I would totally watch. That's a movie I would 100% give another shot, and I could totally be wrong about my opinion on that film.
How can you be wrong on your opinion, Shaheen?
I could be wrong, just not to you.
Oh, I see.
So what I loved about this film is the way in which the story unfolds almost without exposition.
So maybe that's why it is so. I mean that. The IMDb thing, it's about to save their family's farm in West Texas,
we don't
right?
really know that
You don't know that until about 45 minutes in, but there's also a lot of details which we'll get into that they left out even from that synopsis. So even when I first read it, I was like, well, that doesn't tell us shit. It's super generic. But I think to your point, that's why they kept it generic. And they gave it some information, and yes, it might be a spoiler, but you don't still know what,
yeah, no.
Why?
Knowing that information, because I kind of knew that going into the movie as well, but knowing that information doesn't ruin the experience for you. We should also say that plot kind of entirely misses out the fact that this film has Jeff Bridges doing his best Rooster Cogburn from True Grit.
It's Jeff Bridges doing Jeff Bridges, and I'm totally fine with that.
Well, it's more of the Rooster Cogburn, which is a very specific Jeff Bridges. It's not the dude. It's not
the dude isn't Jeff Bridges. I feel like a lot of performances lately from Jeff Bridges, and again, this is not a detriment. The Jeff Bridges, as I'll call it, character fits into a lot of molds.
Yeah.
This is like Cockburn was almost like that amped up in like his own character again. I feel like this, along with even like Tron Legacy and some of the other stuff he's done recently, has just sort of been like, oh, it's Jeff Bridges.
I think it's Jeff Bridges, the guru. Yes. Like he's very much the wise old man sitting in the corner.
Yep.
There's another Jeff Bridges that I loved from the movie called The Contender, where he played the president, and he was kind of like a comedic president who was always basically trying to get his chef to cook the most outrageous meal. So because the film was about like the first female presidential nominee.
Okay.
#relevant. But
did you just say hashtag?
I did
relevant?
say hashtag. I am from I'm from 2008. I just flew in from my time machine. So he plays the president in that movie, but he's always trying to get his chef to cook the most outrageous thing. So he calls up in the middle of the night and says, "Hey, I want a sharkfish sandwich," or "I want kung pao chicken at 2 a.m. And it was kind of like he was comedic relief. But I think we see there are many sides to Jeff Bridges. There is the elder statesman, the kind that you get in Tron.
Yep.
There is the grizzly old man, the kind you get in True Grit and this film. And then there is the old stoner, the Big Lebowski, the kind of, weird old dude. And then even Iron Man 1, you got this sort of...
That's sort of the guru, just evil.
Yeah, it was... I like
Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Yeah, good. I love me some Jeff Bridges.
Yes,
Anything
me too.
he's in is great. I'm always happy. And so the one thing that synopsis leaves out is Jeff Bridges is a Texas sheriff on the hunt for Chris Pine. And everything about what I'm going to describe is cliche. He's a Texas sheriff who's a few days from retirement, who has a partner who he works with, and they're on basically their last great hunt for a bank robbery. And also he knows everything going in. Like he's the one who looks at a robbery and goes, I think this is a spree. These boys aren't done yet.
Right.
It's that kind of
that preternatural, I've been doing this forever, don't fucking question me, I know my shit.
Exactly.
So the boys he's hunting for, the guys that are stealing, robbing banks, are Chris
The Howard
Pine
brothers.
and Ben Foster, Toby and Tanner Howard.
Yeah.
also did great jobs, I feel like.
Cast so well. And like Ben Foster is a guy that I think has kind of been in the he's
done a lot of shit,
and he's actually headlined films as well. He played Lance Armstrong in a movie called The Program recently.
He played Medivh in Warcraft.
Oh, okay, that's and another Western a really great one, 3:10 to Yuma. He was fantastic in that as well. So and here in this film, it's kind of like
he's a chameleon. I think
he's a chameleon, and it's weird because he's appropriately aged out in this movie because he is actually a little bit younger than Chris Pine.
But
he feels like 10 years older.
Well, yeah, because he was the brother that was in prison that came out.
And it's weird because he's not like, if you've seen photos of Ben Foster, that's not what he looks like. He looks like he really lived in this role or that's who he is now. I don't know what it is. And then he's cast against Chris Pine, who has this, obviously coming off Star Trek, or maybe shot this before Star Trek, but has that kind of pretty boy movie star kind of looks. And you can tell that that's under the surface of their relationship, is that this, like Toby,
you got it right.
Yeah. Toby is the special child of the good one, and Tana is the bad apple.
Toby's the smart good one who is going through a divorce, and he has 2 kids, but his wife has left him, and there's a couple of things. And then Ben Foster Tanner was, I forget why he was arrested in the film, but then he's already out when this movie starts. But he was in jail for a while.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of a bit of a psycho.
He's a little. The thing that I think the film
psycho with a moral compass for his brother.
Psycho with a heart of gold.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't even think he's a psych. Well, he is a. Yeah,
he's a sociopath.
Yeah, there is some elements of sociopath. But the one thing that this film really plays on that I really liked is that these two people love each other. Like, yes. Really, they are brothers through and through.
And there's a couple scenes that are very poignant to that effect.
And it never feels like it's forced, and it never feels like they're trying, they never feel like the film is trying to say, oh, these people love each other because of. It's just, no, these two guys are brothers, and they love each other, and they will always be there for each other. And the thing that's cool about that is that's there from frame one. It's not something that's developed. It's not an arc in the film. It's there at all times. And I think, I don't know what it is about that, but I really just enjoyed seeing that relationship feel natural and real.
As far as acting is concerned, and as far as that relationship, other than the specific scenes that are there to instruct you about that, and the sort of undercurrent you're talking about, that's good acting, and through that's good directing, in my opinion.
Good writing.
And good writing, but I'm even talking about it's beyond the writing of it, because a lot of it was sort of the action that they took, or their physicality around each other. There's a lot of small things that I feel are missing from a lot of you're my brother and I love you moments in films.
Yeah.
So this movie, for whatever reason, with Chris Pine and Ben Foster, they either had an amazing chemistry to start, or they worked at something that you could feel beyond what was written on the page, what the director told them to do. I mean, the director probably helped craft this whole thing.
Yeah.
But there's definitely something extra there that you don't get in a lot of either bigger movies, or just almost movies that leave that sort of by the wayside.
It's funny because we're talking about Chris Pine, and we reviewed Star Trek Beyond recently. I think Star Trek Beyond is one film that actually kind of gets those relationships right, where you feel like they're very genuine. But again, I will say the thing about Star Trek, in the Star Trek universe, is that Star Trek is always trying to reiterate what the relationships are between these people. We're always trying to say Spock is my brother. He's been there through me. McCoy, is my best friend. We're all, the film is always reiterating that. What I like about Hell or High Water is it doesn't reiterate that at any point. They're just we're brothers.
It's an undercurrent. It's not a plot point.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned the director as well.
Yes.
Directed by David McKenzie, who's this is the first film of his I've seen, but it's been sitting in my iTunes queue for a long time. Is a film of his called Start Up, which he's a British director.
He's been doing this for a while.
Yeah,
he's 50 or something. He looks like he's 30.
Yeah, he does look very young. And I've heard of a couple of Young Adam and Mr. Foe. I've kind of heard of, but I haven't really been interested, been going out of my way to see. But I heard Start Up, which has Ben Mendelsohn in it, who's one of my favorite character actors. has been sitting in my iTunes queue for a while, and I just never got around to it. It's kind of like In the Name of the Father, about a young prisoner who goes to prison and finds his father in that prison.
Okay.
So I've been meaning to see that for a while. Now, having seen Hell or High Water, I will definitely go back and watch Startup.
Guys, if you take one thing away from this, dear listeners, is that this is one of those films. Even if I don't even know, like even if Westerns aren't your thing and you weren't like super blown away by this particular movie, which there's a lot to be, but say you're not, it's one of those things that as a cinephile or as someone who enjoys movies, you'll be like, oh, this was crafted well. I want to see more from the guy who directed this.
Right.
Like it's a good letter. It's like, this is a fucking great resume for this dude.
It is.
I mean, he's been doing it for a while. I know, but like for me, it was like, this is my entrance fee, and now it's like, if I hear that he's doing another film, I will go to the theater and see that movie.
Great. I mean, I really, and the other thing that another takeaway from to recommend this film, and I think we touched upon it when we talked about our impressions of Westerns as well. I think this is a great movie to go to with your dad. Like, and I don't mean that in a derogatory, like as a cut against the movie, but I think this is a kind of father-son bonding kind of like. It's. I would
say. I mean, I'm an only child. I would say brother. Go see it with your brother or your sibling.
Go see it with your brother or sibling as well. But go see it with a family member.
Knock over some banks. Don't knock over banks.
Don't knock over banks with your family member. If you do, have a great plan.
Yeah, if you do, make sure you're knocking over the bank that's actually trying to foreclose on your farm.
So the other side of what I really liked about this was that it really is like, if it's cutting at anything, it's cutting at the heart of modern America's obsession with capitalism, and with the way in which modern American social capitalism has basically allowed us to favor those with money against those who don't have money.
Yes.
And you see that from the very first frame of this. Well, it's not the first frame, but there's this really cool panning shot which opens the film, which circles around, and we see a piece of graffiti on the wall, and the graffiti on the wall says, "I did 3 tours in Iraq, no bailout for me." And then we come to the bank.
Right.
So, like
you know what you're getting right in the beginning.
And there's a sort of undercurrent of, it has to do with Texas. It has to do with this notion of the 99% versus the 1%, that basically these guys who are robbing banks, and again, the film sets them up as a Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing, but Bonnie and Clyde were essentially psychopathic in some way. They were psychologically damaged in some way.
Sure.
These two guys are not set up as the villains of this piece in any way, shape, or form.
The great thing about this movie is
there are no villains.
Well, you could argue that Ben Foster's character is the closest thing to a villain.
No, I would actually say...
And I'll say why I think that at the end, but
I would say the bank manager at the end
is probably the closest thing to a villain.
Is the villain. He is the unseen villain of this film. And they do it by... Are we into spoilers now?
Yeah, well, one thing I just wanted to say before we get into spoilers, the star of this show, in my opinion, for this entire film, and I will actually crack one open for this gentleman, is Gil Birmingham, who plays the deputy.
And he basically has to endure racial taunts from Jeff Bridges' character the whole way.
But I've seen him. He's been in a lot of things, and the thing I saw him most recently in is he plays
Twilight. You were watching Twilight, weren't you?
Is he in Twilight?
He's in Twilight.
What's he in Twilight?
I don't know, but he's in Twilight. I'm just looking at his IMDb page.
He is. He's the werewolf's dad.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, no, but I was thinking of he's in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. He plays.
Right. He's done a lot of TV. He's in House of Cards.
I really like him as an actor, and this just, I don't know, he was sort of the unsung hero for me in this. Like, you have these other big name people, and he just fucking killed it. He was great.
Before we get into spoilers as well, there's a thing that I loved about this film, which is basically Marcus Hamilton, played by Jeff Bridges, and Alberto, played by Gil Birmingham, who we just mentioned, are longtime friends, longtime partners, and Jeff Bridges is the curmudgeonly older wise man, and basically his whole shtick is he plays an old. He's acting as an old racist, and when I mean acting as an old racist, he is playing the part as his character plays the part of an old racist because that's what everyone expects him to be. And so he spends the entire time making snide remarks about the fact that Gil Birmingham is, a Native American, half Native American, half Mexican, and like Jeff Bridges doesn't know the difference. And the quote that we mentioned at the beginning, it's white man's intuition,
yes.
And then, he comes back. I think that line, even a blind pig finds a truffle, is just a beautiful, like sly little counter, which just gets at the point. And you can feel, again, because you've got the two brothers on one side and then you've got these two partners on the other side who are kind of brothers as well. You can feel there's a playfulness with that exchange. It's not that, Alberto is sitting there kind of like pissed off that he's always being berated. He gives it back as well. And, I'm a brown guy. My favorite white people are the people.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Are the people that have fun without differences. I really enjoy that. And that might just be my sense of humor. But there's a guy, for example, there's a guy I work with in New Zealand who was my old boss. He reminds me so much of Jeff Bridges in this movie. Word up to Andy Gibb. I don't know if he listens to this podcast.
Andy.
But basically, I invited Andy to give a speech at my wedding. And Andy, walks up to a wedding filled with 600 Indian people and proceeds to tell racist jokes as one of the only white people in the room. And I was
it's a bold move, God. Let's see how it works out for him.
And God bless Andy. His delivery is perfect. He is a natural born comedian that never was a comedian. And I was in stitches rolling on the floor laughing so hard. And to me, and I know it's my own wedding, but I think it's one of the great wedding speeches of all time, to the weddings I've been to. And so I love this idea of race being acknowledged and being played. There's this idea that truly between two friends, there is no need for a safe space where words can't be said. And I think that's what this relationship between Marcus and Alberto gets at. Now, obviously, there are power dynamic undercurrents that makes that problematic if you really want to do an analysis of race because and
there's one or two scenes where you can actually see it getting to Alberto.
Exactly. And so and I think the film smartly plays at that as well. And obviously we're still in a situation where Marcus Hamilton being the white guy is the top billed person in the movie, and Alberto isn't. You're not going to see Gil Birmingham, and that has to do with economics as well as race. So it's a complicated thing, but again, there's this relationship that I kind of enjoy, and it's a very trusting thing. You have to know the person you're with to be able to make fun racist jokes. If that makes sense, you know what I mean?
Sure, if that's your cup of tea, yes.
Yeah. Oh, are you getting uncomfortable? You're like...
No, I'm not uncomfortable. The interesting thing about it is, because I was just thinking about, we're talking about this dynamic, and obviously we're of different race.
Yeah.
You and I don't joke like that.
No, we do. I don't think we do, but we could.
I know we could, and I don't know. And again, maybe this is. I mean, of course, this is me because I understand you'd be 100% comfortable with that. In my brain, I just come from the school of I would rather make fun of you for you, not your background or almost culture. We joke around a lot, and I do believe you're pretentious. But I'm
not a pretentious Indian. I'm just a pretentious guy.
Exactly. You're a pretentious filmmaker.
Right.
That to me, that trope is so much more powerful and funny. Maybe it's just playing to my specific sense of humor.
I think for me, being a minority who, the thing is that, and I don't know if it's a badge of honor. I don't think it's a badge of honor, but it's something that you have to confront when you're a minority, which, and I think it's true of Alberto here as well in this film, is that at some point you will be called racial slurs. And it's sad that I will have to explain that to my son at some point.
Right.
I think African American men have a really different, have a different task than I do. But at some point I will have to explain to my son, hopefully the world will have changed by then, but I don't think it will have, is that you, at some point, someone will say a racial slur against you in anger and in hate, and it will be reductive, and they will reduce you down to the color of your skin. And it's happened to me. It's happened to me a lot. It happens, but I'm not special in that. I think every person of color has had that happen to them.
Right.
And so I think one of my coping mechanisms, or something that I enjoy, is subverting that expectation.
Sure. There's something there. You're taking even the power dynamic of that situation, and in a lighthearted way, as to say it, turning that frown upside down.
Yeah, I think South Park does that well.
Yeah.
Like brilliantly in the South Park. Was it the South Park movie where they had Operation Darky or something like that, where like we're sending the black troops in first,
right? Operation Human Shield.
Operation Human Shield. Operation Darky.
Remember, protect our tanks and planes too.
It's a very listeners. If you're a white man or a white woman listening to this, it is a very, very, very fine line, and it is you have to. If I'm not recommending this, but I think when this
here we go. Let's see where it's going.
If you have a relationship with a person of color and you're comfortable with each other, I think one of the best crossing of boundaries you can do is to have fun about each other's race. I really do. I love that dynamic when we get into it, and I love like playing around with that idea, because it subverts. For me, again, it subverts the time at which I've had a bottle thrown at me and I've been called the N-word, which happens. Like it happens on the street. So, and I'm sure Alberto has had that experience,
sure,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
So to have this relationship with Marcus, which is playful in that sense, I think is special and unique, and I don't think we see it a lot in movies.
Well, I guess I gotta start looking up Indian jokes.
Be very careful, my friend. I have very thin Indian skin.
You just told me to do it.
Oh, but see, that's the game I play with you. I'm messing with your mind.
I'm going back to just calling you pretentious.
You are so uncomfortable in the room right now. It's great.
No, I just don't. Again, it's one of these things. Everything you're saying is 100% true. I don't have that history or that sort of, like I can't speak to it. So
no, of course not.
I'm just agreeing because I agree.
Say, it's one of those things. It's a very fine line, and you always there is definitely a moment where it can go one step too far, and you'll. Right. You really got to know your audience.
Well, speaking of going one step too far, let's get to the plot of this movie into spoilers, because these brothers will maybe go a step too far once or twice.
Again, what I love so far is that we've been talking about character rather than plot.
Yes.
And this film has such great character.
Well, that's what you're getting for the price of admission. That's something that, because look, if you broke down what happens in this movie, there are some clever things and a twist or a turn here that I didn't quite see coming, but it's not the most, like, plot-wise, it's not going to blow your mind. In fact, the characters make you care so much that it feels like a much bigger thing than the sum of its parts.
That I agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think my one criticism of the film is that it unfolds very matter-of-factly. Like, it's nothing, there's no turn that happens in this film that feels like a surprise, or that I wasn't expecting that, or that even that is out of the realm of possibility.
Once or twice it happened to me, but again, not like a oh my God, the plot changed thing. Like something happened in a snap moment, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then if you look back at the story of it, I'd be like, well, yeah, if I was thinking about it critically, that's probably where this was going.
Well, we're in spoiler territory now.
Spoiler territory.
Spoiler town.
Let's never do that again.
Yeah, no, let's never do that again. But obviously, if you have seen the film at this point, you know that Ben Foster dies at the end. And I didn't feel that his death was particularly surprising. It kind of happened. It unfolded very matter-of-factly. Now, there's a lot of that's not to say it wasn't engaging. It was very engaging, and I was very invested in where this went. But when he died, Jeff Bridges shoots him through the head. Very good shot, by the way. It happened in such a sort of matter-of-fact kind of way, and this whole film, the way we learn about the mortgage and the foreclosure and the divorce and their plan, it all happens very matter-of-factly.
Well, let's even before we go there, let's talk about this plan. Like, because basically, the plan is they're going to rob a series of banks, and the film follows them from the first bank to the last bank.
Well, it's even more audacious than that. They're going to rob a particular bank where
I'm getting there.
Yeah,
the branches of banks. I forget the name of the fake bank in the movie. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They're robbing all of the same bank, but like there's the different branches of this bank,
and they're going to do it to
basically this bank foreclosed. No, I'm sorry. This is the one thing, actually, this is what I'll say that I didn't like about it, or maybe that wasn't clear enough.
Yeah.
So the bank was foreclosing on their farm.
now, and I think what had happened was that their mother was sick, and they took out and the mother had taken out one of those loans that you see on TV, like
Yes, that's what it is.
What are those loans called? Where you're basically
Fuck you, pay me loans.
No, they give you a loan against the value of your house now, so you can use
lien?
it. Yeah, so you can use it to pay for medical expenses for your retirement, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then they basically come and take your house.
And then the family will either take it, pay it back with your life insurance afterwards, or they will foreclose on your house.
Right. Side note: the land of this farm apparently also had oil
Apparently.
in it. Yeah, that did not have that the bank did not know about.
Right. And so the bank was going to foreclose on this house and basically have a windfall of this oil
Which they didn't know was coming.
Yeah.
Chris Pine's
Pine.
character knew, and so he came up with the scheme to rob the bank itself that was going to foreclose on their farm and pay back the bank with the money they stole from the bank.
Exactly. And I think there's a lovely kind of like perverse Robin Hood, I'm
because it's
stealing from the
literally
rich to pay for my...
everyone in this story is stealing from somebody. The bank played off of fears of people and basically swindled and stole money to gave money to then steal more money back at interest. And then the brothers are now stealing from the bank who they think stole from them to then pay them back and cancel out the debt that they originally got by stealing. Like it's a very sort of perfect circle.
It just reminds me that modern financial transactions are never in the favor of the of an individual.
No.
It's like when you go to the bank, it's like going to a casino. You're gonna get screwed. You just don't know it yet. American interest rates are a real prime example of that. Anywhere in the world, you can get an interest rate of up to 3 or 4%. And banks do that. Well, the fixed interest rates of most countries is designed to encourage people to save money.
Okay.
But America is one of the only places I've gone to, I've lived in where there is no encouragement to save. The highest interest rate you can receive on a savings account here is 1%.
Oh yeah, I don't even get that.
Which is like the inflation is at 3 or 4%. So there's no, you're losing money by keeping your money in a bank. The economic incentive is to invest.
Mattresses.
To invest in mattresses.
No, put your money in the mattresses.
Yep, that's what you should do. You're losing money if you do that, by the way.
But I know where it is. It's in my mattress.
But
my money is not in my mattress.
Everyone wants to know Matt's address and his mattress.
Or is it? I've hidden 12 mattresses around the city.
So, it comes back to that. And then the sort of the thing that we're all, films like The Big Short is waking us up to as well, is this idea that we believe that those transactions are economically sound because that's the way the world works.
That's the system.
But it's not, because when a bank fails, it gets bailed out. When a farm fails, it gets sold and you lose. The banks never lose.
Right.
Of course, the Lehman Brothers lost, but that's another story. So there is an undercurrent of kind of just acknowledgement of the frustration of the everyday person when it comes to the way in which money is not in our power anymore.
And the way this movie sort of flourishes is it's that weird like power fantasy of sort of getting back at the man in a way that is just in your own heart in a weird sort of way.
It's kind of like the Joker's plan in The Dark Knight or something like that. It's like just the perfect plan to like get what you want.
I don't think it's like the Joker's plan.
No, maybe that was a reach.
Because it's not about the money you hear.
It's about sending a message.
What the hell voice was that?
I don't know.
It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
I'm gonna need to sanitize that microphone.
Nope.
You're done with this.
You're gonna sleep with this microphone. So their plan in particular, so that's the macro of it. The micro of it is super fun.
Yeah,
so,
you like the little details.
So, like
right?
little details, like they rob 2 banks and then get rid of the car, and they do it in an interesting way where they literally just dug with like a backhoe, a ramp down.
Backhoe?
Yeah,
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
a backhoe.
A backhoe. What would you call it?
I mean, I'm just going like now. Instead of calling the person a side chick, you can call them a backhoe.
No, it's a piece of digging equipment. Where? Do I have to explain everything to you?
Listen, I did not grow up on a farm.
That's not a piece of farm equipment. That's construction equipment. Anyway, they use a big piece of machinery with a digging implement
backhoe.
to dig. Yes, it's called a backhoe. How do you not know what a backhoe is?
Oh my god. Oh my! I have so many thoughts going through my mind.
They bury the cars, guys. They bury their
so
getaway
many
cars.
Thoughts going through my mind right now.
I don't understand why. That's literally a piece of construction equipment.
Backhoe.
Okay. They bury their getaway cars. It's very cool. They like drive it down into this hole.
That to me is a slightly flawed plan because
Why?
those cars will eventually. There's a potential for those cars to be found at some point.
I don't know, man. If there's so many, no one's. I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It just like the.
I might not have buried them as close to the house that they did. Like they have fields. They could just go bury them in the fields.
But they bury it right next
to the house.
So it's like you could, and like the one giveaway that these people were involved in the bank robbery is to find the cars on their person.
Right.
So it's kind of.
But but little things like that.
But the movie doesn't go there.
No. And then things start going a little wrong. Sometimes due to Ben Foster's character getting a little hot-headed and sort of rambunctious in a weird way.
He does that thing, which is that like, okay, they've got a plan to rob 2 banks per day for 3 days or something like that. And Ben Foster they're having lunch at a diner. And there's a great scene with the waitress in the diner who is a regular on Eastbound and Down, Katie Mixon, which I just loved as well. And it also, that still plays into the idea of the economic transactions, which we'll get into. But he basically, he was like, okay, we're going to rob 2 banks a day. And Ben Foster does the equation in his head. Well, if I rob 3 today, we can have extra time tomorrow. So it's not like he's like thinking about this really logically. It's
he basically gets up from their meal, leaves Chris Pine in the diner to pay the bill, goes across the street and robs a bank very sloppily in the middle of the day. That's another thing. Chris Pine, who was the brains of the operation, he probably thought of the burying of the cars. He also thought of like, let's hit these things in the very early morning when no one is there.
Yeah.
That way there's minimal casualties, minimal people seeing us. We're not stealing a ton of money from every bank, so we don't always need the vault keys. We need the drawers.
Yeah.
They're splitting it up, and it was very intelligent.
Yeah.
But this was not. He just literally runs across in the late morning to mid-afternoon and robs a bank by himself.
And like at a place where they've been seen eating food right across the street.
Yeah,
it's like it's the dumb plan.
And they get away, but then that leaves breadcrumbs for
Jeff Bridges to go.
Yeah.
You could argue that's the kind of writer's convenience. It's not convenience, but it's like a writerly thing that allows Jeff Bridges to basically chase the trail
to be a cop.
Yeah, to be a cop. And
but the trail
because it doesn't. The thing is that. Yes, it does also explain Ben Foster's character, but it doesn't necessarily need to happen in order for the film to move forward.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. So this is sort of like where you think, it sort of starts them down a path. And I think this is why Jeff Bridges sort of figures out that it's a pattern.
Right. Well, he figured out that it was a pattern right away, didn't he?
There was something, I thought this was a detriment at first, but upon further reflection, I think it's actually a merit to this film. I don't know how much him messing up that third bank and robbing that third bank impromptu really screwed them. Because the waitress, because they tipped a lot, didn't rat them out. No one in the diner ratted them out, right? I'm trying to remember.
No, but they did ID them, I think, and I think they figured out who they were because
I felt like that was very perfunctory. Didn't like particularly matter. What really screwed them. But maybe that was more of a character building moment to show Ben Foster's a little bit more of a loose cannon. And while this plan is wonderful, he's going to be the downfall, and the brothers love each other, even though that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The downfall of this, because then, what's it called? Jeff Bridges, and
Marcus.
I want to start calling by their character names. Sorry, I keep like, Jeff Bridges.
Marcus Hamilton.
So Marcus and Alberto go based on clues to this other bank he thinks is going to be robbed.
Yeah.
Which never gets robbed.
Yeah, and it's
So yeah, they're waiting there while the brothers go. This is the coolest part about this movie, I think, because it's not like what you said before. It's like things just sort of happen. This is where I appreciated things not happening in that way. The cops go to the wrong bank, and the next day.
It actually was the right bank, but then they changed their plan, wasn't it? Like
No. And maybe I'm wrong. Let me get through this in my head and we'll sort of go through. They go to the wrong bank. They wait. They have a great scene in a diner where they just serve steak. It's wonderful. Meanwhile, the brothers.
What don't you want?
Go to rob a bank, but the branch has been closed. It's been shut down. So their research was bad.
Right.
But they've already wasted time.
So they have to go to.
So they have to go to a bigger branch during the day to keep on their schedule.
Right,
and then somehow Jeff Bridges, they're driving away from the bank that doesn't get robbed, and then they
basically do the map of like where are the other branches of this bank in this vicinity that will.
There's a weird moment in this film, and maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I hope not, because I really enjoy this about it, where both groups, the quote good guys and the quote bad guys, man, they both get their shit wrong. Yeah. And it's super fun just to see them together fucking up and then kind of fixing their plans and then going out.
Yeah, but again,
because you don't see that a lot.
No,
in films.
You don't. And I really do like. Again, I love the character moments and I love the way those scenes play out. They don't. There, like you said, there's no real consequence to the botched robbery, and nothing that they do to each other causes them to have to do it. Like it has to do.
Well, you're
with
talking the botch robbery at this point, because when they get to the big bank, there's a big old botchery.
Well, that's the big botch robbery. The I guess it's not botch, but the diner robbery doesn't like play out to falter either side.
You think that's going to be the moment, but it's not.
It's not really.
Yeah.
And my criticism is very minor to this movie. My only criticism is that it unfolds very much like you would expect it to.
Except for this middle part, I feel, yes.
Right. But then what we do have in that middle part where Jeff Bridges and Alberto are having to basically spend the night, staking out this bank that they think is going to get robbed, are these wonderful character moments.
Yeah, it gives time.
Where you're just spending time with these two guys. And Alberto has this amazing monologue where he's talking about how we once ruled this land, and then we were taken over by you guys, the white man. Right. And now we're losing again because we're being taken over by those guys. And he points to the bank. Yeah. They're the ones that are like coming in and raiding us again. It's basically every cycle someone comes in to raid us. And there is some wonderful imagery in this moment as well, where Jeff Bridges basically, wraps himself in a blanket, walks outside, and just sits outside the bank in the middle of the. I don't know if it's early morning or night. Yeah. But it's just.
Well, he sleeps out there. He wakes up because Alberto comes out and kicks him.
Yeah, and it's just this weird thing. It's like, why would you do that? But it just gives you this like beautiful image of this man who, I think Marcus in his heart is on their side.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think Marcus and Alberto, in their heart of hearts, they know that what they're doing is wrong and that they need to be caught. Yes. But in their heart of hearts, they're on their side. Yeah. And you even and I think it'll get to the last scene where the point at which Marcus leaves their side.
I mean, we can get to that pretty quick because we're running short on time. So basically, the last bank where they all sort of converge goes awry. They rob it in the middle of the day. It is super crowded. This is also Texas. There's already been jokes about concealed carries throughout this thing.
It's one thing I just loved about this movie was the idea that the security guards aren't the people you need to worry about in Texas. It's the other customers.
Right. So they go in, and then, someone tries to be a hero in the bank. That causes a shootout, and Ben Foster's character shoots a guy and a guard.
I think they shoot 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, well, he does. Yeah. Chris Pine's character doesn't. And then they get away. But then, as they're getting away, the entirety of the bank that is armed jumps in their trucks and chases them.
It's like the posse has arrived in town, and they've got 4-wheel drives, pickup trucks, and machine guns. Yeah. And that's crazy to me, but it's kind of like... It's not. It's entirely within the realm of this world.
I can't speak for Texas, but I can speak for New Hampshire.
Right.
I feel like Texas might be a little bit more rambunctious, or at least the imagery of it is. But I guarantee you, there's a lot of, I mean, I grew up around sort of that sort of thing, like not like
the posse,
crazy
like,
shootouts, but the ability to have one.
And you see this kind of eagerness in the part of the people.
Oh,
who
yeah.
They're like, oh my God.
I'm going to go shoot a bank robber.
Yeah, this is this is why I have my gun.
I was born for this.
And I like everything we talk about, I don't think that this film glorifies gun violence. I think this film is actually like, but I don't think it's making a commentary on it either.
I don't think so either. It's a means to an end in a weird way.
Whereas I feel like a film like Suicide Squad has a lot of gun violence that feels like we're going, man, isn't this cool? I'm shooting a gun. Whereas I feel this film is kind of like, we're shooting a gun. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, so I still find the kind of, proliferation of the normalization of people having guns and firing guns, to me is problematic. And it's kind of like, and I to the point where I think we should be, as a culture, we've kind of looked at smoking on film as kind of a problem. Like we're like, even we shouldn't be saying that that's cool anymore, unless you're in Mad Men. And I think we should start looking at guns in film that way. Like, I do think we should be looking at guns as we should be thinking about the way in which just normalizing people having guns is a detriment to people watching it. Yes. I will say there's obviously, we don't want to get into censoring, and I think, you should have the Mad Men where people
also,
smoke,
again,
I mean,
I have no, this is my issue, and it's almost like the parenting issue in a weird way. I have no problem with the way guns are portrayed overall. And this is where the problem comes in, if most all people are taught to, in real life, know what a gun does, what it can do, and to respect and sort of know where its actual place is. It's the same thing with violence of any kind.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with basically it comes down to is when a kid's growing up, talk to your fucking kid. And then I'd have no problem. The problem I see is it's just everywhere and no one talks about it, and then it becomes like, oh, this violence is normal.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me.
Yeah,
so
I think the normalization problem is
so that's where I wanted to sort of caveat.
I want to be able to like walk into Deadpool and see a dude like, double pistol someone through the skull, because as an adult who enjoys fantasy
and who understands what you're watching.
Exactly. But what I don't want to see is every billboard in Times Square of Deadpool holding a gun pointing at people, and then us talking about why do school massacres happen.
Well, it's so funny because like Deadpool's advertising never had a gun unless it was him grabbing his garage.
Yeah, I like that idea of subversion.
Whereas Jason Bourne, he's just pointing guns at your face.
He's just pointing guns at your face, and like we wonder, and I guess I don't know if there's a direct correlation, but anyway.
Yeah, sorry. Side note. Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
Getting off my soapbox here, but one thing is I don't feel like there's a weird line that this film kind of has where it's like it is. For people who aren't from Texas, like it is strange to like know that everyone's carrying a gun, and that the minute that there is a crime, everyone's a vigilante, and it's like the posse is out, and the police that
didn't feel strange to me.
Really? I mean, to me, it's like, that's weird. Like,
I can see that, especially living where we live now.
And it's like the police also encourage it, like they're not like saying, get the fuck out of here, go home.
They're like, no, help us out.
Yeah, exactly.
So they chase them to this ridge, or they split off because they get into a second getaway car. Chris Pine gets away. Ben Foster goes to do a distraction, and that distraction is basically killing a bunch of police officers.
I like the little details there. Again, it's a gun thing, but it's weird. But it's like the idea that he taped together the two ends of his machine gun ammunition so that and you see him doing it the night before, and they're talking about, why would you take a machine gun? I'm not going to take the machine gun. It's not going to be there. But you see him taping together the ammo rounds at opposite ends, so that
the mags you're talking, so he can flip it.
Yeah. And then so that when he's doing the shootout, he suddenly like pulls one out and flips it. And I was like, oh, that's why he was taping it together. And I was like, that's something you don't like, that little detail. I've never seen.
It's a nice detail. It shows that he kind of knows how to fire it as quickly as possible. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that.
And also, it's like it's a nice. You know, like most of the time with guns and stuff, we don't even see people reloading it. We don't.
Or prepping. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's that
prepping it,
problem.
and you just kind of you feel that, and I just kind of like that detail.
Oh, it was nice.
Yeah.
So then basically what happens is Alberto sadly gets very quickly and very sort of out of the blue
Dispatched.
shot through the eye, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of breaks Marcus, Jeff Bridges' character, and just sort of is like, nope, this is fucking it. Because it was basically his best friend.
His best friend in the film, as far as we know.
Right. So then he sneaks up behind him and then eventually kills Ben Foster's character.
Well, but it reminds me of True Grit, the Coen Brothers film, the Rooster Cogburn, where it's not a simple process. He has to climb a mountain behind Ben Foster's character, and it's exhausting and it's hot, and he has to take a gun
and another guy,
and you know, like it's very detail oriented. It's not a simple I'm going to shoot, you know, you shoot me, I'm going to shoot back kind of thing. And in True Grit, it's like I have to get this girl to this place, and we don't have a horse to do it.
The gun violence in this movie felt real.
Yeah,
and it had weight.
Yeah,
and that's something that I appreciate.
It meant something.
Yes. So that happens, and then it sort of cleans up there. Chris Pine, while this is all going on, goes to the bank and has to like basically pay the bank back. And the bank is even trying to screw him at that point, being like, "Oh, we'll get this back to you in 3 weeks." He's like, "Nope, I'll watch you fax it right now." That's
what I love. That's the kind of bureaucracy you encounter when you're dealing with a large institution, you know, like, and banks do this all the time where they will order your credit. Like if you're using a credit card, they will order the transactions in order to give them the highest interest rate.
Yeah.
You know, and what the bank is doing in this scenario with Chris Pine is they're basically saying, oh, we'll get this paperwork to you in 3 weeks, you know, and we'll probably lose the paperwork so that it never goes through. And Chris Pine, and like, I wish people could just deal with an individual at the bank like they deal with like someone else that they work with, which is you just say, no, you're going to do it right now because I'm standing in front of you, and it's
your job.
It's your job.
Yeah.
Don't give me this like I don't have the authority to do that kind of bullshit. I want you to do this right now.
Yeah. So he gets away with it, but Jeff Bridges sort of knows kind of what's up. And there's this beautiful scene. I mean, we won't say too much about it, but it's just like Jeff Bridges ends up at Chris Pine's place a little bit later. There's already oil rigs on the drills on the property.
Yeah.
And they have this whole thing. He's like, I killed your brother.
Yeah, and he was like, and
he's trying to goad him out.
Yeah, but he's also like, you know, he invites.
Then he invites him in for a beer, and they have that fucking awesome westerny moment where two dudes who fucking hate each other are being like cordial.
Yeah,
and like being like, then it basically ends it with, he's like, I forget how it ends, but it's like, I'll see you. Like basically like,
you won't be able to live with what you've done. 4 people died because of what you know, like, and it's the thing that Chris Pine. That Jeff Bridges is asking Chris Pine to deal with, which is that 4 people died because of what you did, and you did what you did because you felt that it was the right thing to do in order to save your family. And and Chris Pine even says that. He says, I wanted my boys not to have to worry about money,
right?
And that's what I want for them, and that's why I did what I did. And Jeff Bridges is like, well, because of what you did, 4 people died. Was it worth it? Can you live with that? And the thing that's interesting is that I think a more typical film might have made that moment like the weight of what's happened would come down on Chris Pine and he'd suddenly realize what he's done. But I don't feel that going forward that this character has any regrets about what he did because he got what he wanted. Now, the biggest regret he would have is that his brother died.
Sure.
But I feel like his character is so hardened at this point that he's kind of like, okay, that's what had to happen. And I love this ending. I thought it was very smart. I thought it was very well written. I would have loved for Marcus to have some acknowledgement about Alberto's death at this moment. I would like.
He did. He told him that he died.
But I would have loved him to kind of for us to. I don't think Marcus ever acknowledges how much Alberto meant to him.
But you see it. He doesn't acknowledge it to other people, but he doesn't acknowledge anything to anybody. I think that's
right.
fine.
Maybe it's kind of the, you know.
So yeah, the end scene is basically amazeballs, and this film is really good. I guess my final thought is This sort of movie, it's in case you didn't know, I think you should see it. I think it's it's one of these movies that's going to be swallowed up by other big name shit. And normally, you guys know, I don't have problems with big name shit. But when something like
you don't
Suicide
have
Squad,
with big name shit swallowing other shit.
You understand me? You get me?
Yeah.
But like Suicide Squad, if that's making bank and this movie isn't, that bothers me.
So the truth of the matter is this movie, it cost $12 million to make.
Right.
In its release so far, it's made 11.3 domestic estimate. So it's not
doing bad, but it's not. I mean, this is a film that I think a lot of people should see and a lot of people would enjoy. That's my final thought, and I'm just sad that it's being outshined.
And I think I think the dads who love westerns, as much as that sounds like a negative, I think they would love this. And I don't think I don't think they'll like Suicide Squad. I don't think anyone will like Suicide Squad when they actually watch it. A lot of people
are liking Suicide Squad.
I don't know why, but I think it's very hard to walk out of this movie and not like it. This movie is just so classically structured, so well put together, so well thought out. It's hard to, my only flaw is that it's occasionally unsurprising. But that's not
that bad.
That's not a huge flaw. I'm still engaged in the film. That's my final thought on this. Right. Is definitely go see it. And okay, so to me, it's a pretty good film, but in the context of the garbage that we've been fed, it's an amazing film.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give. Yeah. Agreed. Guys, this has been the only podcast about hell or high water. If this is your first time listening, especially after the PAX episode, we don't normally agree this much.
And we've been agreeing a lot recently.
This is such a strange sort of span we're on. Don't worry. We'll start screaming at each other soon. But Shahir, before we hate each other again, where can folks find you?
They can find me at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com. All my work, films, and connections to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff is there. If you're interested, I don't know why you would be. You can hit us up at onlymoviepodcast.com. This is our new site. This is where we aggregate everything. You can see all of our past episodes. We've got over 60 hours of content.
This one will be 61.
Wow. So you could listen to us for 3 straight days.
Don't.
I mean, if you really wanted to.
No.
And all our links to our again, you can hit us up directly at email at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear listener feedback.
We also take requests.
We take requests that we try to fill in as well. We've got Aliens coming up, Boyhood, and something.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Oh, Drive.
Don't you fucking say it.
That may be a moment where we'll be yelling at each other.
I think that will be.
And so really get in touch with us and leave us those iTunes reviews. We really love those. Matt, where can we find you?
Thanks for finally passing to me, Shahir. Yeah. You can find me at Matthew Kroll, MATTHEWKROL.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ, or on Twitter at Emperor MSK. Also, give us those iTunes reviews. Do you love us? Do you hate us? Hell,
why would you hate us?
I think of some reasons. But yeah, they help greatly, and we really appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for listening.
I'm going to write a song called My Backhoe right now. I'm going to write a hip-hop song called My Backhoe.
Please email in and tell Shahir the name of other construction equipment he doesn't understand. We'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.